Hi, welcome to part two in this series on making a Tic Tac Toe game in the console window. In part one, we just basically commented out how our game was going to be played. In this one, we're going to add in some actual code just to get us started. First, we need our include statements. As always, we're going to need IO stream. We are going to need string for players' names. We have a random number generator, so we're going to need time.h. And we're going to be getting input from the user, so we're going to need our the one that we created, the input validation, which is one directory up from where this project should be. So we'll start it, and this one goes in double quotes, remember, so it's .. input validation or verification, whichever one you named it. And as always, using namespace std semicolon. Now, there's a couple of define statements that we want to put in here for doing our graphics. So we're going to define, I'm going to put this all in caps, space as 32. That's the ASCII code for just a blank space. And we're also going to define what block we're using to draw the board. And I'm going to use 178. It's not the full block, it's kind of like one that's a little bit faded. Now, we're going to make some of our variables global, which means that they're going to be able to be seen by every function that we create. This is not normally the way I would program it, but this is what we know so far, so that's what we're going to go with. Now, just to give you a heads up on, this is called scope of a variable. If I were to declare variables inside this main function, they can only be seen inside the main function. If I were to try to call a function outside of here, then that variable wouldn't be seen by it. Now, I could pass it as a parameter here, but there are some tricks to that, and we'll go over them in future videos. So for right now, we're going to make some of these global. If they're named outside of a function, like I said, they can be seen by every function in the program. So the first one is going to be an array of characters, and I'm calling it XOS, and it is 10 characters long. Now, what this array is going to be used for is basically when you're looking at the tic-tac-toe board at the beginning, each space that you could move is going to have a number in it. And the user is going to select one of those numbers, and it will change it to either an X or an O, depending on what that player's character is. So to start off, we're going to want to fill it. And for ease of use, basically you could write this so that whatever they selected, like because arrays we know start at 0, but we don't want to have a 0 on our screen because it looks like an O. So it's going to be numbered 1 through 9. So we're going to put a 0 element in here because we need it, but we're never going to use it. It's just there to fill the 0 spot. But then we are going to have every other one labeled with a number to start off with. Oops. 6, 7, 8, and lastly 9. So that'll be our menu, and like I said, once say the player clicks on, this will be these ones here. These top 3 are the top row, then the middle row, and then the bottom row. So say they select that upper right hand corner, that would be, there'll be a 3 displayed in there right from this thing until you hit X, and then we're going to change this 3 to an X, and when we display it again, when we redraw it, it will have an X there instead of a 3. So we also want to have an array of the X's and O's, and we're going to make this an array that's also 3. Well, this one's going to be 3 wide, and we're also going to make that first element just be a 0. Then we're going to have capital X for player 1, and why is this giving me capital O? Oh, I know why, because I didn't use curly brackets. So we're going to go 0 in the 0 array. Player 1 is going to be an X, and player 2 is going to be a capital O. Now, we're also going to get the 2 players' names. Those are going to go into an array of strings. This is going to be 3 wide, and it's actually not going to equal anything at the start. Now, the reason that it's 3 when there's only two players is because array element 1 is going to be player 1. Array element 2 is going to be player 2. But at times we may want to swap them, which I'll explain later. But we can use array element 0 as a swap to help us swap them. Now we're also going to keep track of the wins of each player. And it's going to be the same thing. As the players swap, we're going to have to swap the wins count as well. So 0 element will be used for that. Then we have player 1 wins, player 2 wins, and we have a 4th element, which is just for ties. And that is it for our global variables. Now, inside of our main function, we are going to make a couple more. We're going to have an integer called choice. That is basically which of these they've selected from the screen. So they're going to hit, they see they want to move into position 4. They're going to hit the number 4, and it will go into this variable choice. We're also going to have a character that is called let's make that coin toss winner. That's basically sums it up. Which character or which player won the coin toss? I spelled that wrong, so let's fix it. Now, as we're playing this, the player, of course, once player 1 makes his move, it then switches to player 2. We need to keep track of which player is whose turn it is. So we're going to keep that in a variable called current player. And we're going to set that equal to 1 at the start, since player 1 will be the start. Now, at the end of each game, it's going to ask you, do you want to play again? And they're going to answer yes or no. So we're going to make a variable called play again of type of a character type, and we're going to set it to be no at the beginning. So by default it won't play again. Now during the game they can only have there's only a maximum of 9 moves. So we're going to want to count the moves as they make them, so that once they hit 9, we know that the game's over. We're going to start that off at 0. And we're going to want to keep track of if there's a winner or not. And we're going to set that to false at first. And that is all of the variables that we need to run this program. So in the next video, we'll actually start adding some code into here. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye.